You're watching RT. Warm welcome if you just joined us. It's just after midnight now here in Moscow. My name's Kevin Owen, and in the spring sunshine, May the 9th has been a day of remembrance and thanksgiving here in Russia for Victory Day. And as night fell, the grand fireworks in Moscow closed the commemorations to mark 66 years since the defeat of Nazi Germany. RT's Anis Sanawi watched the spectacular in the centre of Moscow.
This is the culmination of the celebrations. As you can probably see behind me, hundreds of people have made their way through Red Square onto this bridge just outside the Kremlin. Hundreds, if not thousands, are gathered watching the culmination of commemorations in the Russian capital with this grand firework display. Just to give you an idea of how grand this display is, some 30 salvos from almost 100 launchers and guns are lighting the sky above Moscow as we speak. They can be seen from almost any point. We're here on Red Square. They're also seen from Victory Park, where tens of thousands of people usually gather on this holiday. This, of course, is a tradition that began back in 1945 when news reached Moscow that Nazi Germany had surrendered. So people here in the capital found out that this exhausting, long, horrific war has ended. And as you can see, it's a tradition that has carried on. This is a tremendous holiday here in Russia. Some 27 million Soviet lives were lost during the Second World War, what Russians call the Great Patriotic War. Just to give you an idea, the UK and the US combined lost some 900,000. So 20 million, 27 million is a huge number. And that's part of the reason why this holiday is so very close to the hearts of many Russians. It's usually marked here in Moscow. The biggest event takes place, as you know, on Red Square with the annual Victory Day parade. This year, of course, was no exception. Some 20,000 military personnel took part. That's a record. And it was quite a grand show. It's something that the country does every year. It wasn't as spectacular as the 65th anniversary, but that just goes to say that when the 70th anniversary comes, I'm sure we'll see quite a phenomenon here on Red Square. One of the important things, and at least for me, that is incredible to see, is the veterans that come to watch this parade, to see their eyes, to see them remember. We had a chance to speak to some veterans about their memories of fighting Nazi Germany.
I was in the infantry, so I walked my way through the entire war, from Stalingrad to Prague, all by foot. I was 18 at the start and 22 when it finished. And I met a beautiful girl while at war, and we got married when the war was over.
I liked the parade a lot. I participated in the Victory Parade of 1945. In Moscow, people and girls in streets greeted us, cheered for us. They kissed us and expressed their happiness. And we were all so proud that we won the war. We were completely happy, especially as we marched during the parade.
I joined the war in 1942 in Stalingrad. It was the most severe battle. I was wounded in it and spent over 4 months in a hospital in the Urals area. I've been in the army all my life. Today I work with the veterans. I am happy with today's celebrations. The parade was grand, the weather was sunny, and all our people cheer for the Victory Day. People greet us on the streets, in metro, everywhere. Thank you very much.
So a very solemn holiday here in Russia, but like you heard from those veterans, a joyous day as well. And joyous is certainly the atmosphere that we have here on Red Square as people enjoy this firework display. Celebrations most certainly will continue into the night on this 66th anniversary of victory over Nazi Germany in World War II.
It's been a day for veterans of the 1940s and today's service personnel to proudly wear their medals and uniforms as a nation gives thanks. RT's Peter Oliver's been following events in Moscow's Victory Park.
Well, tens of thousands of people have come here today to Victory Park to pay their respects to those millions of people. You're saying 27 million Soviet citizens died during the Second World War, the Great Patriotic War. They've been here to pay their respects to them, but also to celebrate what they accomplished in laying down their lives, that victory over Nazi Germany 66 years ago. Well, to entertain the crowds here, you might be able to see in the background there's a stage set up. There's been musical acts on, playing music from the time, from the 40s, popular hits from that day playing out to entertain the crowds. And amongst those tens of thousands, many, many veterans have been spotted around here, resplendent in their medals that they won fighting against fascism. What was a very nice touch is it's a very hot day here in the Russian capital. Some of those veterans taking shelter in the shade underneath trees. When they were doing that, we were seeing crowds of people, families, young people, all ages, coming around, talking to them, asking them questions about just what they did during the Great Patriotic War. Very nice to see that those people not forgotten, that they are treated like the heroes that they are. Well, of course, World War II, the Great Patriotic War, one of the first conflicts that it didn't just directly involve the soldiers that were fighting on either side. It was one of the first conflicts that openly involved the civilian populations. And Sarah Firth, RT Sarah Firth, met with some of those people who lived under Nazi occupation in the Kaluga region.
It was hell. I felt like an end of the world. Everything was on fire, burning and exploding all around. Trees were on fire. A weapons warehouse was burning, and the crashing noise was terrible. People were running around yelling, "They're killing, they're burning us down." It's so hard for me to look back at that time.
Just 11 years old when the Germans invaded, Ludmila witnessed firsthand Nazi brutality against civilians.
I remember they raided our homes for food. They'd take every last bit they could find. Each family here had someone who either died from starvation or was shot dead.
Known as the Barbarossa Jurisdiction Decree, Nazi soldiers were exempted from prosecution if they committed a crime against the Soviet people, and were encouraged in the murders of the Jewish and Slavic civilians. Hitler's war of annihilation and his instructions based on racial ideologies were carried out with devastating severity. Amongst the archives here in Kaluga are thousands of documents detailing some of the atrocities carried out by German occupiers against the citizens. We've read some harrowing accounts from children whose parents have been killed. We also found an advertisement that went up in the city. Now, the German soldiers have said that they think their telephone lines were cut by one of the citizens, and for that, 20 people are going to be killed. Now, they wouldn't have known who was guilty, but it says at the bottom here, if anything similar is tried again, that the punishment would be even worse. During the occupation, thousands of children were rounded up like cattle and sent west to work in the German labour camps.
We were never called by names, just by our numbers. Each barrack was surrounded with barbed wire with bright yellow sand around it. They would throw toys in the sand. The children would reach out for those nice-looking toys and be electrocuted. They were also taking blood from the children to use for the treatment of German officers.
Nazi propaganda films praised the friendship movement, showing locals and Germans working hand in hand. Those who were there to witness the reality respond incredulously.
They grouped together women and children from nearby villages. They were pushed into basement and then set on fire. A lot of people died that way.
The Nazi brutality would eventually prove self-defeating, creating an attitude of hatred and stubborn resistance among the conquered people. A young girl trapped behind German lines writes to her father in the Red Army.
"They're bloodthirsty monsters. You can't even call them human. Kill them, Papa. Kill the enemy."
Sarah Firth, RT, Kaluga region.